hello from Philly? Comments. Kevin, here is your pickup, man. I'm going to ship it right after this. So Kevin just bought one of the pickups from us at Hometown, and after this I've got to run back to my house, grab some strings, and go drop this off at the post office and get you over there. So yeah, I'll keep playing this guitar for just a moment. Let me show you this thing real quick. Homina. Look at this thing. So this is an E6 SS. There's a whole second part of that song I never play. Anyway, that's a song I wrote on Alvarez when I was in college. Let me see. Hello, Joe, coming in from Mexico. So, okay, I'm going to have to hold the mic a little bit today. But welcome to The Void. I call The Void. This is the side office at Hometown Music. So I'm in the shop because we've got deals running and turning over. So you might see people coming and going. I doubt it, but maybe. But I'm in this like little side room that, it's a dirty white room. But it has freshly vacuumed floors, and so it's a good little space. One of the biggest shifts I've had since I've started working at Hometown Music is that there's a level to which I get interrupted. I'm not used to, because I'm used to being at my house in a studio where I get to kind of hold an idea for a long time, and here I just get interrupted, 7,000 times a day. But this new space is going to be a fun kind of extra little space away. So anyway, there's a bunch of people. Yeah, so Kevin just bought a pickup. Thanks, Kevin. And Monkey Sweeper, what a name. Hello from Norman, Oklahoma. Joshua Thaxton from South Carolina. Hello from Seattle? Nope, St. Louis. I always get that wrong. STL? I did catch your mistake. I'm glad you guys are here. Virginia Beach. John Brogan. You're not far from us. You're like 4.5 hours. Come hang. So Eastman does Gibson. Eastman does do Gibson, in fact, and they actually do Gibson really, really well. This guitar is exceptional. So, I'll read the tag. I can't show it so you can show it. So this is an Eastman. This is the E6 SSTC. So this is a solid thermo-cured top, so a torrefied top on this guitar that I was just playing, and then solid mahogany back and sides. Let me show you. It's really good looking. So there's that thermo-cured top, or that torrefied top. And then I'm going to take your comment off Terry, old Tear Bear. Look at the figuring on the sides. I mean, it's just... Look at that movement. I mean, come on. And then the back is just beautiful mahogany. So, I mean, I'll finish reading through these specs. So, this is a solid thermo-cured Sitka spruce top, a solid mahogany back and sides, mahogany neck, 24 1/4 inch scale length, 20 frets, 12-inch fingerboard radius, ebony bridge and fingerboard, bone nut and saddle, natural gloss finish, and a hard case for $1,099. I mean, that's unbelievable. Yeah, so $1,100. This one definitely needs to find a home. I have found myself, I keep going through like, oh my gosh, I love this guitar. I want to own this guitar. And then I remember that I own a Wright Lutherie that is very similar to this guitar, but like full on handmade. So Joe said that he's coming in from Mexico. Joe, he's a Harrisonburg guy. He's a Virginia guy like me, but he's living in Mexico. So anyway, David, gotta get back to work. Yeah, about time. Just wanted to stop and say hi. Man, that's so good. Thanks, David. Good to see you, man. Hope when you watch this later, yeah, that I don't know that you see this if you're already gone. Anyway, yes, the Wright Lutherie is better, but is it 3 times better? I mean, that's the thing. Is like the price is a lot, but on this one, man, so Daniel has a Wright Lutherie J185 coming, so that'll be an exceptional guitar. Everything that Nathan has done so far, I've been really excited about. So, buenas tardes, trades. Anyway, talking Mexico stuff. Today we're going to talk about the best and worst of my dealings on Craigslist. And it's going to be a bit of a chronological journey of my guitar buying before I did YouTube. This is fun. Almost none of these have videos on them. And if they do, they are like super, super, super old videos. Like embarrassingly bad, but still way more hair videos. That's the thing that has confirmed that I am, in fact, losing my hair, is when I go back and I look at how much glorious hair I had in 2015, 16, before stress entered my life. It's not true. I had stress before then, but I've gotten a master's degree in stress ever since. Okay, with all of that said, let's jump in. The year is 2009. I am in college. No, 2008 or so, and I couldn't find a picture of the actual guitar, but one of the most fun things, I don't know if you guys are like me and you're like lunatics that save all of your old emails. So for me, I don't save them. I just don't delete them unless they're like spammy stuff. So I went through all of my Craigslist correspondence, all of those like someone has replied to your thing, and it's that long, the long code. So I went through and I looked through like lots and lots and lots of old deals I found, and I tried to find guitars where I could. I couldn't find pictures of some of my oldest guitars. I did find one from the Larrivee where the guy says that, hey man, only you, me, and Jesus know you're here. Found an email from him with the MapQuest directions. So anyway, all right, let's jump into it. Number one, the year is 2007 or 8. I am a super poor college student. I'm paying my way through school, and I'm also volunteering with Young Life, so I'm driving like 30,000 miles a year and paying for gas, and gas is super expensive. I bought this guitar at a yard sale, and I sold it on Craigslist. I bought it for $35 at a yard sale, and it was a Yamaha FG110. Mine was a red label. Now, again, this isn't mine, but it looks very, very similar to the one I had. It's basically kind of a 0018. It's a great sounding guitar, like all those Yamahas. Sounds great and had really high action. And I ended up selling it to a guy on Craigslist, and I met him in the parking lot. I remember this deal. I ended up meeting him in the parking lot at my community college. And he tried to chop me down on price, tried to get me down to like $70. And I literally was like, hey man, I need $110 to cover rent and then buy a week's worth of groceries. Like $110 is the least I can take for this guitar. And the guy was like, are you serious? Like, are you really that broke? I was like, yeah. And he's like, promise me you'll actually use this for groceries. And then he gave me a $20 tip at the end. So he gave me $130. And so with that, I was able to buy groceries and pay my rent. My rent was $118 a month when I was in college. And and even working full-time. Because I was working full-time and paying for school, I just couldn't afford life. You know, you guys know how it goes. This was probably one of my first guitars that I bought on the side and sold on the side, trying to make extra money to make ends meet. Yep. Yeah, the story about you, him, and Jesus. Dude, it's coming. Yeah, that was over in Afton. So if you're from the area, it's just kind of the hills, some hill people. So the second piece of gear, one of my favorite deals that I got was this brand sparkly, spanky new New Orleans based. I got this one this Marshall Class 5. I bought this one on Craigslist. I found this for $250, and I bought it for $200. This was the first time I ever had anything go big in social media world. And so I had a picture of this guitar with my pink Paisley Telly, which that one will be on this list later on. But I bought this one from a guy, and these were like so cool and so ahead of their time. They were the first tube amp that really had, well, that's not true, but mass affordable first tube amp that had power scaling. So you could do like a 5 watt or a 1 watt. And then this one also had an additional thing where the 1 watt could go to headphones. So I would play this thing, like this is right when we started having kids, and I was able to play this one like on the 1 watt setting with headphones in the in the pantry off of our kitchen or in our laundry room. So it'd be like me and my 2 big English bulldogs in their kennels, and I would sit there and play guitar with headphones and play guitar. And but this Marshall Class 5 I bought for $200. The first thing that blew up on any kind of social media stuff. This is in 2000. I looked this up. 2000. It was the second year. Yeah, we were in a different house. So this was in 2014, this fall or winter of 14. And yes, I posted a picture of this guitar with my pink Paisley Telly leaned on it, and then Marshall Guitars reshared it, and it got tens of thousands of likes. This is back when pictures would get tons of likes on Instagram. And so I got like a ton of followers on my personal Instagram. Which since then I've made Guitar Hunter. I have like a separate one from my personal one. And yeah, but this one, I ended up selling this thing for $450, maybe 6 months later. And it was just so cool because it's just like cool and white. And I have to wonder if me getting the white amp, getting that picture with the pink Paisley Telly, putting those two together in a well-crafted photograph that then got shared by Marshall, if that didn't spin out into the world of people wanting some of these white Marshall Class 5s. Because before then, I got it at a very normal price. I think they were going for $250 or so. And so me just being me, I can't pay just asking price. There's something broken in my brain about that. But yeah, so that's where, this Marshall Class 5 came and went, and I made $200 on it. And so that was a super fun one. And I'll come over here. More talking about... Oh, no! You're knocked out by a storm. No! All right. See you, see you, Terry. Yeah. So anyway, that was 2014. Around the same time in 2014, I found a Taylor 712. Actually, this one's way back. This one's before. We're not in chronological order anymore. I bought this one in college. In 2008, I was playing in a friend's wedding, and that's not an important detail to buying this guitar, but it's where I played this guitar, the main memory I have of playing this guitar. But yeah, in 2007, I bought this guitar. No, sorry, 2008, I bought this guitar right before a friend of mine got married, and I played while his bride-to-be walked down the aisle to this guitar. So this is the one that I literally wrote. I'll play what I wrote on it. You've heard it, and yeah, I'll show you. So if you've heard me play this, that was written on a Taylor 712. Now, what I love about these guitars is that they are like beautiful. I mean, they're amazing to look at. This picture is a spruce top. I had a cedar top, but they're cedar top. They're rosewood back and sides. They're a smaller size. They're super, super comfortable to play, and they're still really undervalued. Even now, they're only like $1,500-$1,600. And so for me, they've always been way too underrated. And so I bought it hoping I would make more money on it. So I literally bought this one to flip. now keep in mind, I'm not a flipper out of like, see how much money I can make, but I'm always like, I'm working hard and I'm coming up short, and I have a skill set that I can buy and sell, and I can find a little bit of margin here and there. And so that's how I paid for college, and that's how I paid for a lot of things. So with this one, I think I bought it for like, I paid $1,200 for it up front, and then I sold it for $1,350. And so never made that much money on these. I've owned a couple 712s and 714s, and they're magical kind of guitar for sure. Sonia's here. Hey, Sonia. And Bren Hall coming in from New Zealand. That's amazing. Those Taylors are great. I agree. Marshalls fall apart too easy. Yeah, I wonder. The ones I've had have always been pretty bang on reliable. So, hey, somebody watching from Facebook. Adam, I have an amazing condition 1953 Fender Princeton. Thinking about selling it? Reverb? No, not Reverb. Get a good shop and see if they would do it on consignment. Reverb is not a good solution for anyone selling anything that is old or requiring any level of nuanced understanding of vintage instruments. It's just not a good place, and it's also real expensive. 12% or so. Hey, Mr. Evan Ogden. Hey, buddy. How are you? Dude, Evan, I listened to some of your music the other day on your page, and it's awesome. You're doing great. So, yeah, Adam, sell it to Daniel. Give me 5% for referring you two together. So, I'm kidding. I wouldn't do that. So, Monkey Sweeper says, I've had 3 Marshalls, and they all pooped out pretty quickly. Interesting. It's kind of hard. It's like, I don't know what comparison you would say, but they're not all the same for sure. And they're different at different times in their production runs, So Kelly says, I sold all 3 Taylors that I've had, 414 being the best one. 414 is a good one. Yeah. Lucas, hello from France. I loved the tone on your Strat demo recently. Deluxe Tone Master Reverb. What were your settings? I usually run everything. The volume, if I had to guess, it was either on 4 or on 6. I just recently changed to knobs that are not numbers. They're an arrow. So the cream knobs. So it's like a 4 or a 6. And then usually I do treble at 6 and bass at 4. That's usually my go-to. And that was all the DI with the Royer 121 IR on the setting on the output. So it's a very warm, very lush sounding. I don't use the 57 preset, but yeah. So anyway, back over here. So Taylors, I bought a bunch of Taylors throughout my days. Now, as we keep moving, I got married, and I moved to New Orleans. And when I moved to New Orleans, there are a couple things I brought with me. And then, I'll do these. You won't notice, but they're out of order in here. So the number one thing is I made a guitar right before I left working at the guitar shop. I built a guitar, and I've done this. I've built kind of speculative guitars that I build and then I would sell, and it was always kind of fun parts casters. So I built a like dead on amazing David Gilmour kind of clone with really sweet 50s reissue pickups, because I had some that had come out of a custom shop. I think they were the 57 when they used to do the 5762 in the custom shop. So I had some of those pickups. I had CTS pots. I had a really beautiful flamey maple neck. And so I put this guitar together right before I left, after I moved from Virginia to New Orleans. I had this guitar for a while, but it's the only time in my life I thought I might not play guitar forever, that I might have other interests in life. So I got really into my job, and I got really into socializing, and I'd moved to a new state. And so I was really learning and growing a ton. So I built this guitar, and I just wasn't really playing it. So I was like, maybe I can make some money. And it also was in the most gorgeous G&G case. It was in a black case with white piping on the outside and a big Fender silver logo. And then inside it was crushed purple velvet. It was, I've still not seen one like it. It was absolutely incredible. And so I sold that guitar and that case to a guy, sold them to a guy. He was actually on vacation, and he was staying on Canal Street right downtown, like not downtown, but right in New Orleans, close to the French Quarter. And before that, I tried to sell it locally, and this was my first deal interacting with dudes from Louisiana. And so I was at this, I was at work, and I kept getting these texts, because this is back in the day when I would still put my phone number on a Craigslist listing, like my actual number. And so this dude started texting me. He's like, hey, I want to come by your house and see that guitar. It's like, sorry, I don't meet at my house. I can meet you somewhere. He's like, no, come on. He's like, I can be there in 10 minutes. I was like, no, thanks. And so then he told me this. He was like, all right, man, well, how much do you want for it? I was asking $1,200. Now, I get it's a parts caster, but it was an incredible parts caster with top quality parts. I'd put it together really well. And then also it had this really cool G&G case. And he comes back. He's like, I'll give you $450. I was like, no, not a chance. Like, the parts are worth more than that. I would just keep it or take it apart. Before I would do $450. He's like, let me know, I can swing by your house. I'm close. I was like, you're not coming to my house. So eventually we worked out that we could meet at a gas station that's a couple blocks from my house. And we show up at this gas station, and this dude with, like, from top to bottom, the crustiest, grossest single dreadlock off the back of his head, like a wisp of just burnt hair. Was all clumped together. He's an older guy, like late 60s for sure. He had long fingernails. He was wearing a mesh tank top, like a neon, like a fluorescent highlighter yellow mesh shirt. My wife was with me at this one. This is the one that she still is like, you deal with lunatics. Like, guitar people are weird people, which she's not wrong, but this dude was super cranked on just being the weirdest he could be. It's also New Orleans, so it's like New Orleans weird is everybody else's craziest thing they've ever seen. This guy was a New Orleans 7, but for everybody else, that's like a 10 plus. But he then was like, all right, man, like, let me play the guitar. And he played it, and he's like, all right, I'm going to buy it. I was like, I'm going to give you $550. I was like, no, I'm asking $1,200. And he's like, hang on, let me show you some cash. And then this is the part that my wife still tells this part of the story. Also, I forgot an important detail. He was wearing these tiny little, like, marathon booty shorts, and he reached his hand into the front of the shorts and just fished out the longest, grossest, sweatiest tube sock out of there, and it just literally came. It literally. I'm getting a gag reflex remembering this. That really happened. Okay, so then Anyway, he pulls out this wad of cash, and it literally is wet. And I see him set it on the counter, and I can see it, like, the humidity on the counter, like the moisture on the counter underneath it. And I don't even touch it. And he puts out $600 on the table, and I just say, no way, get out of here. And he's like, let me know, man. I know you're going to be back and sell me that guitar. And so literally the next day I ended up selling it to a dude who was on vacation in New Orleans who paid me $1,200, and he gave me $50 for bringing it, like, to him at his hotel. So anyway, this was my David Gilmour clone. That's the last, like, spec parts guitar. No, I've built a couple more since then, but this was the last one that I, like, tried to do as properly as I could, kind of in the vein of a Danacaster. Not to that level. I wasn't making stuff, but I was really assembling and setting everything up as absolutely well as I could. Yeah, seriously, a wad of wet cash, of crotch cash. Yep, it was, dude. I've tamed, ever since having babies and having to change diapers, I'm better about, I'm better about my gag reflex. Still not great, but anyway, maybe 1,200 is good. I meant slightly used for that. Yeah, I forget. I mean, this was, you can talk me down to, anyway, something else is happening. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. I'd been like, now the price is $1,500. Yeah, you've got the greatest stories. Yeah, I mean, it's been around a bunch, and I've bought a lot of guitars in every weird place I can find them. So another guitar, and this is one that, like, really, I had this long stretch where I thought I wasn't gonna play guitar, because I just went a few months and I barely played guitar. Like, I would play every now and then when I got off work, but other than that, I'd get off work and my wife, we're both working, but we didn't have kids and we're just married and we're living like just outside New Orleans. And so we would go like see bands play and go to fancy restaurants and go get drinks with friends and just kind of live life. So I just wasn't playing music much. And a few months in, I was like, man, it'd be fun to have a nice guitar. At that point, I had like a Martin D35 and a Gibson J50. A 61 J50. So I had two really nice guitars, and I didn't really need anything else, but I realized I didn't have a guitar that I felt like I could just take and play anywhere. So I found one on Craigslist for $600. I found a Martin 0015M. Now, this was before people got wise to these. This was back when, like, the market on these was like $750, $800. So I wasn't that there wasn't that much room in it for me, but I got this guitar. I have really fun memories with this guitar, and I sold it really quickly, which is what I do. But I bought this guitar, and I have such fond memories. I put a K&K in it. This is the first guitar I ever put a K&K in myself, and I did it on our kitchen island after our oldest kid, who was our only kid at the time, went to bed. I remember this so clearly, standing there in the kitchen and putting it in. Somebody's trying cymbals right outside that door. So, FYI. Yeah, so we're in a guitar shop. But, so I was on Craigslist one day. I found this 0015M. And so I ended up meeting in the next town over in Hammond, Louisiana. And so we met in a Target parking lot. And we'd agreed on $650. And when I got there, it was this young couple was there, and it was the woman's guitar, and she was telling me, she's like, I love this guitar. This was an anniversary present from my husband, but we have been trying to get pregnant for a few years, and we just need to sell some stuff so that we can fund our IVF stuff. If you don't know, like fertility stuff to have babies. And my heart just like melted for them. And so I was like, okay, here you go. And I had extra cash because I always have extra cash. And so I gave her $800. I gave her the other chunk of money so that she could do this. And we all cried. Everyone cried. Because I knew we weren't trying to have babies at that point, but I just knew how hard. I could imagine how hard that would be. So with this one, I had it for about a year probably, and I played it a lot at church, and this is right when our first baby was like starting to walk and run and talk a little bit. And so my main memory with this is we had to do worship practice, and I had her with me, and so she's running around while we're practicing at the church. And what a fun memory. And so I ended up selling this one, and the market had come up on them. So I ended up selling it for $950, which $950 by the time I put a $100 pickup in it, I was up $50. So, but I'm so glad for that one. That was such a fun guitar to own. And they're still, they're monsters. Now they're up, $1,200, right? $1,300 for these. But the 15Ms are really, really wonderful. Let me come back over here to the comments. Yeah, seriously. There's some of these. I'm right outside of the drum room, or like the drum side of the shop. Daniel, you got to come down. So you just gagged watching. Good. Yeah. 0015 was a great guitar. Now probably one of my best Craigslist finds, and this isn't the entire story. I'll make a video on this guitar coming up here in the next couple weeks. But my 1985 or 1986. Serial number says 85. The neck date inside says 1986. So I'll take it as an 86. But my Fender Japan Paisley Telecaster. This one is a first year of production. Super cool. Now here's the story. I used to see this guitar on... there was a guy that would play this guitar in the French Quarter in New Orleans, and I loved this guitar, and it was so fun to hear him play all these like jazz tunes on this guitar. And so he'd play like New Orleans-y jazz kind of stuff. And he played with a guy that played trombone. I put so much emphasis on the So he had a guy that played trombone with him. And so anyway, for years, I would see this guy. Somebody's going to town right out there on a ride. Sorry about that. So we ended up, I had struck up a friendship with this guy, and I was like, hey, man, if you ever sell this guitar, I would love to own it. I don't live far from here. Here's my phone number. And apparently I wasn't the only one that was like winning him over and friending him and trying to get him to sell me this guitar. And so I ended up going back one time, and all of a sudden he's playing, but he's got a Gibson 330. Like, oh, hey, that's a cool 330. I love those. His was like mid-60s nickel covers. Very cool. I was like, wait, what happened to the pink Paisley? I thought you were going to tell me if you ever sold it. He's like, didn't I sell it to you? I was like, no, you didn't sell it to me. And so he ended up giving me the guy's number that he sold it to. But before I could even call that number, I looked on Craigslist and I could see a 1985 pink Paisley Telly for sale in Baton Rouge. And so it ended up being a guy that became a friend later on that bought it. And so I missed out on buying this guitar for $400. I ended up buying this guitar from the guy on Craigslist for $800. And I don't regret it. No, sorry, I didn't pay $800. I paid $1,000. I paid $1,000 for this guitar, and I don't regret it for a moment. The first thing I did with this is it had really cheap pots, and the switch was really crackly, and it was crackly well, it wasn't just crackly, it literally was like obstructed, like there was stuff bent inside the switch. So I swapped everything over to CTS pots and a good CTS switch, and then I put Seymour Duncan Antiquities in it, and I have not looked back. This is my everyday excellent guitar. Come back over here to the comments. I can't keep up. Hey, if anyone has burning questions, the super chat is a good way to get my attention, because otherwise I flip back over here and there's so many comments I don't know where to jump in. Somebody. Kirk! Yeah, Kirk was here. Man, it was so good meeting you. Thanks for coming by. Really fun. It's been fun seeing people from like names that I see on here, and then all of a sudden they show up in the shop. So yeah, thanks for coming by, Kirk. Was walking the dog, but I'm here now. All right, buddy, I'm glad you're here. We're on a jazz odyssey right now with somebody playing cymbals out there. That's fine, whatever. But yeah, my pink Paisley. Now another guitar that I found along the way, and this one has an amazing story, is my 1953 Martin 0017. Now I bought this guitar because it's my dad's birth year. And I don't know, that was like my justification. Like, oh, my dad was born that year. But my dad doesn't play guitar. I don't know. But I found this guitar. What is happening? Some lunatic is just smashing on the drums out there. I thought we're a guitar shop only. But I ended up, I was in Breaux Bridge, Louisiana. I was on a call, and I saw way down in South Louisiana. I forget the town. I think it's Galliano or Cutoff, but it was way down past Tchoupitoulas. So you had to go down through Tchoupitoulas and then keep going down all the way to where like you're seeing like wetlands become wet, like where it becomes the wet. And it was just unbelievable. But this guy had a 1953 Martin 0017, and he was selling it, and he was a shrimper. And so he said, I can meet you, but I have to meet you on Wednesday afternoon when we come back into port. You can meet me at just outside the port after we drop off our load. Then when we're restocking, you can come and buy the guitar from me. And so I ended up meeting him, and it was 10,000 degrees outside. It was so hot in super, super South Louisiana. And I was there still like in a sales job. So I'm wearing like a dress shirt with a business logo and, you know, all of my health and safety stuff with my ID from going in an oil refinery. But this guy opened up the case and he's like, you can have this guitar. And so I bought this guitar, $1,250. Yeah, he made the price. I was like, how much do you want for it? He's like, I don't know. He's like, how's $1,250? I was like, sounds great to me. And so I got this guitar. Now, it also had a Sunshine pickup in it, which I still haven't done much with. I basically I saw how much those pickups were selling for. I listened to it. It didn't sound great to me, but there's a cult following of the Sunshine sound hole pickup. And so he bought that one, and I sold that one right away. And but with this one, I ended up, to get the guitar, I had to go onto the boat, and we went up into like the wheelhouse. And it had been staying up there with him in the wheelhouse, and it was so cool. And also, shrimp boats are the stinkiest boats I've ever been on. It was so intense, and this guitar smelled like shrimp, not good shrimp, not cooked shrimp. Smelled like stinky, rotten, gross shrimp for a good while. I had to get little baggies of baking soda and put them in there for a while. I had to leave them in this guitar. It also had super gaudy gold locking tuners. Daniel, I forgot about this. Like your Gibson L1, this one had locking shallow gold tuners, or Spurzl tuners, and it was rough. And so I sold the pickup. That's the other thing, yeah. I sold the Sunshine pickup for like $350. So all of a sudden I'm in this guitar like $950 or $900. So I had this one for a couple years, about 3 years. I owned this one from like 2014 or so to 2017. Yeah. When are you doing the Paisley? When are you doing the Paisley video? 3 years later. Jeremy, next week, I promise. 5 videos later. Yeah, this week, man. I'm working on it. You know, it's just... Okay, at this point, if I ever actually make a video about that guitar, it has to be freaking excellent. I'm probably going to need to hire somebody. I think so. I think that sounds right. So Joshua says, is the Sunshine like the Sunrise pickups Jeff Tweedy uses? I believe so. Jordan! What's up, man? Glad you're here, right? Man, woman, man. Man, good. How did that Martin make it? Must have been 120% humidity, definitely over 76 degrees. Dude, seriously, that guitar had been like in the Gulf of Mexico. He had it for years. He bought it used at a pawn shop, but it was in great condition, had no cracks, no issues. I sold it to a blues guy in Mississippi a couple years later, and it always worked really well for me. Does our shop do some kind of multi-point inspection before shipping the guitar? We don't formally. So everything we sell, for the most part, our shop is mostly new stuff right now. We're working on buying up more used gear. But I'm the one doing all the shipping. That's not true. I'm the one that's doing most of the wheeling and dealing and getting people to buy things over the internet. Like Kevin just bought this pickup. So I'm the one doing most of it. But yeah. All of us, we make sure guitars are like well set up and totally safe, and we are proud of them that we would want to own that guitar before it sends out. If it has dead strings, we change those. If it needs a setup, if the intonation's wonky. So we make sure that guitars are really well done. We don't have a super formal process for it. So moving forward, the next theme I started finding was Larave's. I started finding that whoever was selling these was doing a great job to people that never stuck with it. Because I found one, then I found another, then I found another, then I found another. I think I found 4 in New Orleans, or like Kenner, Metairie, like these suburbs of New Orleans. And I would find them for $400, $450. So this one was the first one I bought. This is a 2004 Larrivee L03. This one was a cedar top and then East Indian rosewood back and sides. And it was magical. This guitar was so good. I bought this one and then basically immediately doubled my money and sold it on Reverb. This was back when this is where I got my start on Reverb. Before things went sideways with me and Reverb, I was a super user. Like I literally was like, it was a full hustle. Like it was every day I was on there talking to customers, buying stuff, selling stuff, getting stuff shipped. And I really loved Reverb in the beginning, and then had my falling out, which it's interesting in the phases of being a YouTuber. Like I'm now at a place where people are finally not asking me. Like now, last week, I guess in my Larrivee video, someone asked in a comment, like, why does he say he hates Reverb? And I'm glad that I'm no longer the, like, I quit reverb guy. But that is probably my first big video, was me saying, like, reverb screwed me over. Here's how they did it. And then kind of walking through it. Still unfortunate because it's off of my vibe, you know. Because I feel like I'm pretty, like, gentle and calm. And, yeah. Kelly! Yeah, Kelly, we're working a deal, too. We're trying to get some stuff going. So, he says, you are easy, so easy to work with too, Jeremy. I can tell you care about what you do. I really do. This is like my favorite. This is like my favorite thing that I'm getting to do with my life. What's my opinion of the Martin D16? I love them. I think they're great guitars. They're a prosumer guitar. They're still just so close to being expert level, but there's still some limitations. So some of them are still satin back and sides. They've changed it around so much, but how they attach the neck to the body is probably the main place that they're saving money, and then how they do the finish if it's a satin back and sides. But overall, they're really good guitars. Now, I will say a lot of them end up having a weird neck angle, and to reset them is kind of wonky. It's not expensive, but it's just complicated, so you need to get somebody that knows what they're doing. But yeah, I think you should do it if you can do it. So one day, I realized I had way too many guitars in my life, and I'd been renting an extra space to store some guitars, and I was still in a sales job. I'm still traveling all over the Gulf Coast, and I just realized, like, okay, I'm bursting at the seams buying and selling guitars. And so somebody pitched the idea to me saying, like, hey, why don't you open a shop? So it ended up being cheaper for me to find a retail space. I found this super cool office in downtown Covington, Louisiana. That's the one I made a video years ago about why my guitar shop failed. So I owned a guitar shop in Covington, Louisiana called Bayou Music Exchange. That's I was selling all the guitars that I was buying on the roads, like the Shrimp 0017. But one day, somebody walked in with one of these, and it was a 1961 Martin 0016C. Now, what this picture doesn't show, this is the actual guitar. It's wild. I was able to take this picture off of, it was like sitting in a chair in a picture, but I was able to, like, do an image trace and cut it out. But this guitar, when it walked into my place, it had a crack from the end pin all the way. So let me do it this way. From the end pin down here all the way around to here. It was like all the way around that bottom bout. And so a guy came in and he said, hey, I want you to buy this old Martin I own. I was like, ooh, I will buy every old Martin I can. What do you want for it? And he showed it to me and he's like, what do you think it's worth? I was like, oh, man. That's a real crack. And that's where I just thought, like, it's too far gone. So I told the guy, I was like, hey, man, I have to decline. I mean, this guitar is just going to be too much money to put into it to make it worthwhile. Because in my head, I'm like, these are $1,000, $1,200 tops. Then again, different numbers, different time. We're going to look at this video when we talk about those numbers and be like, holy cow, in a couple of years, when things are even more expensive than they are now. But in 2017 or so, when I bought this guitar, so the guy was like, hey, well, what do you want? What would you pay for it? I was like, I don't want to hurt your feelings. He's like, no, really, like, you're not going to hurt my feelings. Tell me a number. And I was like, I don't know, man. Like, I will give you $100. And I was prepared for him to be like, you son of a, and like be upset with me. But instead, he was like, all right, let's do that. And so I literally had $100 in my pocket because I just sold some pedals, and gave him $100. And then I spent $700 getting this guitar put back together by Tim at Tim's Guitars in Baton Rouge, who is still one of the best repair people I've ever met. And Tim was like, it was thorough, and like we did a lot of work, and he was able to repair it with minimal refinishing on the sides. We didn't refinish the whole side. We just matched it, and he had a similar guitar. That's like the one strange mercy of Hurricane Katrina, was that he had a lot of guitars that had been really destroyed, but he had pieces and parts of these guitars that he was able to cut up and chop up and use in pieces. So he was able to splice in a couple pieces that then filled out the crack on the side. And so with that, we were able to get this guitar together. So this is one of my first YouTube videos. Yeah, like it still doesn't have, I think it has a couple thousand views. But this is one of my absolute first videos, and you can hear one of my kids talking in the video. Like, Papa, can we go on a walk? You know, and I'm like, after I do this video. And so, yeah, it's also when I'm just learning how to use a camera. I wasn't really planning on it, but I was just like learning how to use a camera. And so I had an APS-C camera, which is a more affordable, smaller sensor camera. And it's really zoomed in, and I was using a 50 millimeter lens. So it's all like way too close to my face, you know? So it's before I got a camera that was able to do some wide shots. But this guitar I sold, and this was what started funding as I knew that I was closing the shop and I knew that we were going to need to move. This is when we started kind of tacking towards moving back to Virginia. All right. What do you think for beginner or intermediate guitars? D16 would be good. It's at the high end. It's the very high end of intermediate guitars. You're just on the cusp of getting into a professional guitar with an 18. Honestly, they're the best videos. Thank you, man. That's it's fun, man. I need to get back to where I'm not in like, hi, YouTuber mode. The first thing you need to know, I want to get back to the more casual kind of videos. I just did one yesterday. I'm building a lighting rig in the studio. And it's just a fun, like, vloggy thing of me making stuff. And me making mistakes and dropping stuff on my head. You know, so it's good old-timey stuff. Yeah, I miss doing those kinds of videos. Well, then there's that, you're really... Hang on. Well, then, you'll really need my gorgeous Guild D35. Wait, you have one? Oh, I saw it. Yeah, Bob. Okay, I saw this one. It's on Craigslist right now. Yeah, I definitely want to check it out. I love Guilds. My 71 D40 is magical. So after that. I found a 1973 Fender Telecaster. This is another video. This is a brand new, like, this is the first video I made on a camera I owned personally. I think I made this video before I made the 0016. But this is when it's like in front of a, like a white sheet background. I thought that would be cool. And then it just looked like I was standing in front of a sheet with a bunch of like fold lines. And then I bought a steamer and it didn't work. And it didn't like, anyway, bless my heart. But this one was my first video that I was like moving in the direction of like, well, how do you know what year a guitar is? And I kind of walked through my justification, my reasoning on like, because this guitar had so many things that are like, well, it's a range. It's not really a specific date. Those tuners could be this year. That logo could be this year. That serial number could be 72 to 75. And so I ended up like pulling the neck and seeing that it's a 72 and bada bing, bada boom, or 73, sorry. And yeah. Oh, cool. You're the first video that you saw of mine was the Guild D55 video. That's awesome. That's fun. That's a lot more recent. I mean, that's still probably 2.5 years ago now. I love that guitar. I need to go back and watch that video. But the 73D or Fender Tele was awesome. And I ended up selling this one so fast. Sold this one on Reverb. And I want to say I sold it for close to $3,000. I was only in it about $1,100. So it was a good day. During this time also, I was buying up every single Martin D18 I could find because I could find them. And there are two. I only found a picture of one of them. So this D18 was the first one I ever put an Anthem SL from LR Bags in. And it sounded excellent. And but I bought this guitar for $1,100. And then I sold it for $1,800. And I thought that was the highest that D18s would ever go. And then very quickly within the next couple of years after that, now you can't really find a D18 under $1,800, $2,000. That's the kind of the cheapest that you can find them. And so yeah, man, it was like a full blown every D18 I could find I would buy because they were so much guitar. Especially when you look at like, well, a used D16 is $1,000. Why wouldn't I just spend a couple hundred more, get a dovetail joint, nitro finish, you know, everything I want, ebony bridge, ebony fingerboard. Also, that's when the Reimagined one came out. Around the same time, I bought one of the weirdest D18s I ever owned. Was a 1971. It was a 1971 neck, and so the neck was completely original. Had a really beautiful carve on the neck. Had patent number Grovers on it. Had the really cool dark rounded headstock from 71. But then the body was completely new, and it was made by the Martin Custom Shop. And so what had happened was the guitar had irreparable damage, and I have all the paperwork from Martin on this. So the body was like totally mangled and messed up. And so the Martin Custom Shop built a new body and then attached the old neck to it. And so it was this total weird thing. Now, the thing is, it was like bright, shiny, totally new body, super old, worn out, you know, smoky bar neck. And it was a very strange guitar. I bought that one for $1,100 on Craigslist. No. I bought that one on Reverb, and then I had it for a couple months, and I was feeling some pressure. I still had my D35, and so in the email that I found that I sold this one, I ended up selling this one for $1,900, and I could show all of the stuff from Martin. And so yeah, made $800 on that one, and then $600 on this one in the picture there. Daniel, this is the one that's the closest to anything I found other than yours. So this one is a 1926 Gibson L1, and this was a really cool guitar that played great. Didn't sound great. It's ladder braced, like it sounded very boxy and thumpy, but I love the shape of this thing. It's just this perfect, like hourglassy shape, and I really love this one. Yeah, what's the current state of Martin quality? I genuinely think that Martin quality is better now than it ever has been in my lifetime. It's better than the 2010s. It's better than the 2000s, better than the 90s. That's when I really started paying attention to Martins. And it's definitely better than the 80s because the 80s still had hazy finishes, big paper labels in the back, cheesy go-to tuners, very like nerdy, you know, tube socks and white New Balance vibes coming from those Martins from the 80s and 90s. But they got their groove back, especially as they started doing the reintroduction, the reimagined, very like updates to the model. So in 2012, they did the D18. In 2017, they did the D28. And then they've done others in that same time period, the D41, 42, 45, the 35. 35 still has Grovers, right? But in my opinion, I think Martin is better now than they ever have been. Yeah, there's not a ton of turnover at Martin for sure. There are lots of people that I have met that worked there, and they say, like, I worked there for 35 years. So it's pretty amazing. So Nathan says, is it your experience like mine that Gibson acoustics cannot stay in tune? No, I haven't found that to be true. I have had two Gibsons in the last couple of years. Both I bought on Craigslist. A J45 and then a J45 True Vintage. One of the... Was this? It wasn't a Southern Jumbo. If it was a Southern Jumbo, I would have kept it. But it was a J45 Banner reissue. And it was monstrously magical and wonderful. And it stayed in, both of those stayed in great tune. And I would tune them into weird tunings too. Right. Never mind. Sorry. Here's an L3 with an arch top. This one's a flat top. This is an L1. The neck was, this one was like a very, very specific C or V shape. Like you felt it really like tuck into the corner of your hands. Terry says, Martin is making some light killer D18s these days. They need to make more of the D18S. They absolutely do. Terry sent me his guitar this week, which is a Santa Cruz It's a dreadnought. It's 12 fret. It's mahogany back and sides. Oh man, it's a magical thing. I think it's basically my dream guitar. I was just playing it last night. It's a wider neck. It just reminds me of all the guitars several guitars that I got that I got rid of that I should have kept. So I think I'm at the place where I'm finally in my life where I get to just say like, hey, like come hell or high water, like these are here. So one of the wildest things I ever found on Craigslist was a 1960 Fender Stratocaster. And this video is intense and wild. It was super hard to make. This was a generation shift in the complexity of videos that I would make. And I just can't get over it. I mean, this video was so hard to make, and it's still not good because the audio levels are really wonky. This is one of the last videos I made in iMovie when I realized I was pushing past what iMovie can do in a video. Maybe that's different. Maybe that's changed. But with this one, I met Mario, who owned this guitar, and it's super cool. You should check out the video if you haven't seen it. And I've got two more. I found a 1972 Princeton with mods. This is after I moved back to Virginia for that Strat and this one. I was back in Virginia. And this one I found, and I kind of remembered it. I realized I was like, I definitely know this instrument or this amp. And so this was a 72 Princeton, but it had mods. Someone had added a full-on reverb tank with presence with the Dwell. So what they'd done is they had a 50s Tweed reverb unit and they had a Princeton, and one of the guys like through some crazy sorcery put it together. What happened was I made a video about it, and the guy who made it had passed away, and his brother still lived, and he lived close to me. And so he reached out, and he saw the video, and then he reached out to me. We had some mutual friends. He ended up coming to buy this. And it's in the video. He says like such a like off-putting moment of where he's like, you seem a lot taller in your videos. Like, thanks, man. And yeah, so he and then he told me I was fat and that I should think about losing weight, and he gave me a website for a diet thing, which ended up being Noom, which, holy cow, I ended up doing Noom, and I lost like 27 pounds. So maybe he was right. But this one was cool and weird, and I'm fine that I didn't keep this. I ended up finding a cool modded amp in the 66J in my Guild 5e3. So the last one, and some of my worst experiences, and there's one more story after this. But I had a 1979 Guild D25 that I tried to buy a couple summers ago. And this is a video on the channel too. And this one, I was like, everything was set. It was supposed to be $500 for this Guild in an SKB case. And I get there, and it's just so much worse than the pictures made it look. There's cracks and dings and dents, and there's some soft finish. The bridge had been clearly re-glued and not well, and so just needed so much love that I didn't have time or space to give it. And yeah, since then, people have continued to watch that video and comment saying that I definitely should have bought it, and I still stick to my guns that I'm glad I didn't. But all in, man, it was intense and weird. Let me see. Come back over here to the comments. Morgan, I would do unspeakable things for that Strat. Dude. Or Tony would let you. He wanted $20,000. I offered him $14,000, which would be me literally selling my car. And he didn't go for it. I'm really glad because it's too much. That was too much of a risk. Yeah. Yeah. That is the story. What acoustic pickups do you sell in the store? So we have the full line of LR bags. So we have the Anthem, the SL, the Lyric, the Element, the VTC Element. We have the M. We did have the M1 the M80. We sold that one this morning. And then we have dabbled with K&K before, and we've sold some Fishman stuff before. I preferentially, I decided we're going to go mostly into LR bags because that's just my own preference. I have an opportunity to trade my mint 2018 0028 Eric Clapton plus $1,000 for a new Martin 0018 Modern Deluxe. Fair trade sale. I love my AC, but I like the idea of trading up. I mean, $1,000. What's your 0018 or your 0028 EC? That's a $4,000 guitar new, right? And even now, those are selling for $3,000. What's a Modern Deluxe going for? 38, 34, and it's an 18, not a 28. So it's $1,000. That's not okay. That's not crazy as I do the math and I work on it. Yeah, the fact that it's a 0018 Modern Deluxe, but I don't know if you feel good about it. You know, see if they would do $500. You know, and see if you can get any number. Yeah, I wouldn't do it. Daniel says don't do it. David says I agree with Daniel. Don't do it. Yeah, it seems like a pricey deal. So, oh, I do have another story. And this is one of the things that my wife, like her perspective on it, when I asked her, like, hey, when have you thought about deals that went bad? And she immediately didn't think about the guitars, but thought about the people. And so I've had a couple situations. I've really had one. I sold a Favilla, an F6, F5. It was an F5. It was the mahogany top. I sold a Favilla to a guy locally here in town. And the guy just didn't, it's the first time he'd ever bought a guitar, so he just didn't know the etiquette of buying a guitar. And so I ended up making a video afterwards. The first half of the video is like, I'm selling a guitar today. And that's what I thought the video was going to be. But it ended up being the guy, like, did some unprofessional things. So I made a video. And this is back in the days where it's like, I must make a video. I have to make a video. I must document reality. And so I'm still committed to documenting reality. But basically for this guy, he just broke the code in a bunch of different ways, like tried to pay with a check, wasted a bunch of my time. He played for an hour, like having me sit outside. This is during COVID with the mask on and just outside in the cold. And then he was saying the guitar won't stay in tune. I was like, yeah, it's 45 degrees outside, so it's not going to do great. But he didn't want to go inside the coffee shop where we could have tried the guitar out. So I made a video about it, and yeah, this guy immediately, he was wearing a mask, but he immediately reached out and said, like, you don't have the right to use my video, or to use my, to use me in your video. I was like, well, I do. Virginia's a single consent state, and you consented. I have on camera you consenting. So, okay, I'll tweak the video. But the dude, like, just could not get over it. And, I mean, literally until earlier this year, he's still, like, harassing me and trying to get people to tell me I'm a terrible person for this. And it was probably tasteless for me to make the video. I probably wouldn't do it again. But there are times where, man, people just can't be chill. And I understand I worked very hard in the video to not be like, this guy's a dummy. But I just said, like, hey, like, he doesn't know. Like, it's fine. And you probably don't know, and I definitely didn't know. And I look back on deals, and I hurt people's feelings. So here are the things. Pay with cash. Don't waste people's time. Be respectful. Be thoughtful. Know what you're doing before you get there. The other thing was that he was buying it for his wife, and she hadn't asked for the guitar, and he hadn't told her, and then he bought it. She was upset that he spent like $700. So yeah, it was hard. It's the first time I've dealt with this in a couple situations. Every now and then I'll get people that are really unhappy with things that happen or how they're shown in my videos on the channel. And but with this guy in particular, it's the first time I really realized that there are people who lack the infrastructure of a self-reliant sense of identity. Like, their identity cannot exist because they don't have the ability to take any coaching or correction or redirection. And so this guy was just like so broken. And so anyway, I feel bad for him. I took the video down, and but yeah. So anyway, that's the only weird one. Tube sock guy, that was weird. Shrimp boat guy, super fun. And then I've had some other bad Craigslist ones, but you know, every now and then I think back to just the wild life of buying and selling guitars. I think it's worth it, and I should probably have a camera or tell people where I am and not get stabbed. Haven't been stabbed yet. T-shirt. Put that on a T-shirt. So, anyway, that's all I got for this week. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for watching this video. I'm Jeremy. Make sure you hit thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. And there's merch and cool, fun stuff. Oh, there's brand new merch. I don't have it. It's in the other room. But there's new Guitar Hunter hats. And there's new merch and stuff. So, anyway, thanks for watching. I'm going to play this E6 SS a little bit. I should play. Anyway, that's all. Oh, is there new coffee? There's wheel? There's not. We have like 2 bags of the last round of coffee. But there will be new coffee next week. So if you buy it now, I can get you the new coffee when it comes in. Yeah, coffee is delicious. I gave up coffee for Lent, and I'm less sleepy than I was last week. And feel better. But anyway, coffee is wonderful, and so you should buy some coffee. I'm not drinking it, so you have a better chance. So yeah, go get some coffee. Wonderwall? Okay. Hang on, that's copywritten. If I do that. Play a hymn? Okay. Let me see. I'll look up the words just to make sure. Okay. All right, here's a hymn. This is one of my favorites. From the depths of woe I raise to thee, the voice of lamentation. Turn a gracious ear to me, hear my supplication. If thou iniquities dost mark our secret sins and misdeeds dark, oh, who shall stand before thee? Oh, who shall stand before thee? All right, guys, that's all I got. So that's just the first verse. That's Psalm 130, and that's by Indelible Grace. So thanks for watching. Go fill the world with music and friendship. Thanks, everybody.